You know, when you're the first session after lunch, people tend to kind of trickle in. Hopefully they're not napping, because otherwise they're missing the most important session of the day, because each and every one of you is going to get a free... Nope. That would be a lie. I didn't say it, so I didn't tell a lie. Anyway, welcome. Thank you for being here. My name is Mark Day. I lead the global sales organization for mixed reality. I've got another member of my team, Ahmed Al-Khomi. He covers northern North America, Canada and the northern US, but we're both here representing the globe. So if you guys have any questions at all, what we'll do is I'll go through my presentation. You can step up to the mic. We'll field those questions. I'll try to be quick, but gauging the audience interest so far on mixed reality, you probably have a lot of really good, precise questions, technical questions, and I want to make sure we do our best to at least make sure we capture them and follow up on them. So Ahmed's going to help me make sure we capture anything that we couldn't answer on the spot for you. Right, Ahmed? Sorry to sign you up for that on the spot. Thank you. So anyway, so why are we doing this? Why on earth is Microsoft on this campaign, if you will, to move us as a company into a new realm of computing? Why are we doing this? Well, it's all about this notion of ubiquitous computing, where we're trying to make the edge and the cloud work seamlessly, and HoloLens setting the high watermark for spatial computing in defining what we call the third wave. So we started out, obviously, as a company, very successful with the PCs. We thought that would be a really important plan for us to become a highly scalable organization and really empowering individuals and users and organizations. And then, of course, the mobile platform sort of took the market by storm. I'm not sure Microsoft led that market. You might agree with that. You might not. But we get it. And we've certainly been highly invested in the mobile platform, and everything that we do now, we try to reach those endpoints as effectively as possible. But we're in a new realm now, in this notion of ubiquitous computing, and it wasn't coined certainly by anybody at Microsoft. A professor back in the 80s at Berkeley, and the name escapes me, but came up with this notion about this thing called the third wave of computing. And we see it as what we call sort of a spectrum around mixed reality. Think of it as a paradigm shift in the way we visualize and the way we interact and the way we analyze and make decisions around data. And we need to be able to do that with new metaphors that tell a story about the data in a more informative and intuitive way. So when you think about the notion of what mixed reality is as a spectrum, you've got sort of VR on one side and AR on the other, where we're sort of blending the physical and digital worlds, where VR is a highly digital experience. It's completely opaque. You're displaced from reality, literally. You might have depth sensor cameras that give you some spatial awareness so you don't run into a wall or understand where the floor and ceiling are so you don't get sick. But it's VR, and it has its place with commercial use. But it turns out, and I've got another slide that will talk about this in more detail, that AR actually has a much higher pragmatic value in the commercial space. And this is where HoloLens really sits. So it's not really placed right in that slide. But HoloLens is actually technically an augmented reality device. It's not a virtual reality device. It is a physical world device, meaning it's opaque in how you look at the real world, and then being able to place digital assets to inform you better about decisions that you may be trying to make, or design principles, or how to fix something, or how to do a complicated task, using digital augmentation to help you with that. And it could be words, it could be shapes, but typically it has some form of animation to give you a better sense of what it is that problem you're trying to solve. So when you look at the market, in this journey, just at the time I've been in this role for the last 2 years, it's already grown exponentially. Not a very impressive market, quite frankly, in the short run in terms of its growth. Those are in millions of dollars, not $87.7 market. But obviously it's going to grow to $6.2 billion just in the next 3 years. And we've seen estimates as high as $45 billion, $60 billion, 100 billion. When you look at the entire spectrum of VR and AR as this third wave of computing and what it means. And in particular, as you might have guessed, it's very popular in manufacturing. There isn't a single German car manufacturer that isn't heavily invested in augmented reality in some meaningful way, and the notion of computer vision, just by way of example. In construction, which we have some interesting use cases that we'll talk about there, it's really coming on strong in a market that's typically been highly fragmented, not even an industry really that Microsoft has prioritized until now, because of the ability to do design and inferencing around smart infrastructure, smart buildings, visualizing how structures are going to look and behave in the real world. Retail has been coming on very, very strongly with us, and that's been a fairly recent phenomenon too. Being able to pick and choose the type of kitchen that you want to have. That was one of our first use cases with Lowe's, to going all the way to using a computer vision strapped to a robot, running around a factory floor, a shipping floor, to try to get an understanding of palleting optimization, using HoloLens and using things like Azure Connect. And we have retailers that are experimenting with that right now. So that's becoming a really big market. And beyond the obvious sort of consumer experiences that you can create, I want a beautiful couch, you know, I want to see how it's going to look inside my room, and I want to know exactly how it's going to look in relationship to my room, and I can bring that experience home and sort of digitally try before you buy. And then in healthcare, and I think this is probably one of the most profound, meaningful, purposeful sets of use cases, certainly in improving health outcomes and saving lives. Some of the obvious use cases around telemedicine that you would expect with remote experts, clinicians that can't get to the far reaches of the world, rural people who need help, and those clinicians can't get there. That's a simple, common use case that we see that has profound impact, all the way to doing surgically guided augmented reality procedures right there in the operating room. So you have an MRI sitting right next to the patient in the operating room. You basically wheel them back and forth on the same gurney without having to expose the patient to an operating procedure for very long. And you can literally take their CT data of whatever the procedure is. Maybe it's shoulder surgery, maybe it's heart surgery, maybe it's eye surgery, and have that physical, digital twin of that anatomical system in question, and the clinicians can practice the procedure over and over and over with that patient data before they actually do the procedure, and then while in the operating room, do the procedure and have very, very high probability of success. For example, we've seen a hospital in Beijing do more than 300 successful hip replacements using HoloLens in the operating room. Something maybe that the US regulatory regime is not quite ready for with the FDA, but nonetheless, great success stories across Europe and Asia that we've seen thus far, and even Latin America. So anyway, big market, big opportunity, but not just a curious market anymore. It's actually getting quite real. And in the third wave, these are the typical scenarios that we see, and obviously in industrial design and prototyping, training and development, like arguably the most common thing you're going to do when you put on an augmented reality device like HoloLens. It's self-guided instruction. Teach me how to do a really complicated task quickly, and I don't have to either be removed into a classroom and taken off the job or off the line, and I can do that procedure right then and there, coupled with basically getting a remote expert or remote assistance right there to help you if you're stuck. Geospatial planning. This is an area that's getting a lot of attention right now, particularly with the capabilities that we have with our cloud. Being able to become very geospatially precise with all manner of different partners who are experts in this field, like Esri and folks like that, and being able to use multiple points of input, celestial input, terrestrial input, subterrestrial input, to do everything from mining types of operations to physically trying to replicate scenarios for either first responders and even in defense and military types of scenarios where geospatial planning is incredibly important to get an exact replica or exact digital twin of what's happening and doing it in a safe way. Sales assistants. This is as simple as the Pokemon type of a scenario where you have your iPad or your iPhone, and I just want to see what that new car is going to look like before I buy it. And I can configure it on the fly using a touch screen, and I can automatically send that order to the factory. That's very real, and that's a product that we have available as well that I'll talk a little bit more about. But a lot of the business benefit that we see, at least right now, has been around field service. And I've got some specific cases to review with you there that have been tremendous in the dramatic savings and operational costs that many of our customers are experiencing, which we'll seek to quantify in some of my examples. And then finally, just the productivity gains that we're seeing in being able to perform that task faster, much more accurately, and be able to bring multiple parties into the experience, even if all of us don't have a HoloLens on our heads. More precisely, these are the most common use cases that we see across any industry. Remote experting, remote assistance, phone a friend, see what I see, do it in a hands-free way. And you don't need necessarily a spatial computing device like HoloLens to do that. You can do that on your mobile phone. You can do that with your tablet. You can do it with 2D types of augmented reality head-mounted displays like Google Glass or RealWear or Vuzix. Fantastic devices. We love them. We think they're great, but they're not terribly spatially aware. So when it becomes important for you to be able to do 3D annotation, as an expert, draw on my screen. If I'm looking at that problem, maybe I'm fixing an elevator and I want to look at it from different angles, to be able to do that and have that annotation stay with the object I'm pointing at or that I'm illustrating, it can be incredibly important, particularly in a high-intensity problem-solving mode. And so that's the key difference between a 2D device and a 3D spatial computing device, is when is spatial computing incredibly important to solve the problem. So it doesn't mean that HoloLens is always the answer, and it doesn't mean that a 2D device that isn't a HoloLens is always the answer either. So you have to think about that when you make these kinds of investments. Task and training guidance, as I said, the first thing you do when you turn on these devices is it walks you through some self-guided instruction. When you turn on the new HoloLens 2, it's going to ask to calibrate for your eyes if it doesn't recognize you or hasn't seen you, and I'll talk more about that in a bit. Doing real 3D visual collaboration. Think of the movie Kingsman. Anybody seen the movie Kingsman? Whatever, those get that English movie, awesome movie. Being able to sit around a virtual conference room as if you're really there, whether you do a 3D body scan or just a headshot. We have lots of partners who do this. And being able to share in that experience where we can manipulate that hologram, whether I'm on a 2D iOS or Android device or an iPad or whatever, even a Surface, or being able to use a 3D device like HoloLens and be able to collaborate in any part of the world in that shared experience with a highly persistent scene of holograms that are in there. Pretty amazing stuff, and that's becoming really popular. That's work you can actually do today. That's not in the future. For those of you who were at Inspire last summer or as a partner of Microsoft, you had a chance to witness some of these scenarios that you can find. You go out to YouTube, type in type in 3D spatial computing, and you'll see in a great snippet from one of our executives who did this demo on stage, Julia White, with a 3D sort of holo projection or holoportation of herself speaking in native English to a native Japanese audience and having that neural text-to-speech language happen real time for that Japanese audience and getting it pretty precisely right. When we talked to our Japanese team at Microsoft, they told us, hey, that sounded pretty good. It was a little bit robotic, but speaking perfect Japanese, incredibly difficult to do as a non-native Japanese speaker. Really, really difficult to do well. So using AI and infused in that can make those collaborative experiences incredibly powerful. And then finally, contextual data access. So it's not just about HoloLens and this first-party experience, or first-person experience, I should say. It's about using computer vision writ large. So we have another device that we've released recently that I'll talk about that's available now, at least in US and China, called Azure Connect. Anybody familiar with that? Some of you have hopefully had a chance to play with it a little bit. That's kind of the whole notion of computer vision, to not just see what's going on, say, on a factory floor, to respond to patterns or anomalies that are happening, say, from a worker safety standpoint, but also to recognize speech and recognize sound, and being able to infuse AI into that type of tech so that you can become much more spatially aware of what's going on in the environment for a variety of use cases, which I'll talk about. So customers are telling us primarily they're seeing tremendous progress and acceleration and improved skilling, tremendous efficiency and quality gains, do it once, do it right, be able to go through that industrial design of designing a new car without having to print up or create as many clay models. That saves a significant amount of money and time to get new cars to market. We're doing these kinds of things with Daimler and BMW and Volkswagen. We're pretty excited about the way they've been very progressive in this type of tech. But perhaps the story that I like the most is how it's really empowering people to do great work. People who may be highly skilled or people who are not highly skilled, and be able to empower that user to make the right decision on a task that they don't have any confidence to perform, and they can suddenly do it once and do it right and do it faster. It's not a way to displace their job, it's actually a way to empower the work that they're doing. And I think this is actually the thing that's getting the most attention when you think about the delight that it creates for the user when they get under the HoloLens for the first time. All right, so let's talk about HoloLens 2. Anybody interested in HoloLens 2? Yeah? Well, you could probably have some questions for me about how you're going to get one, I guess, so we'll get to that. But let's talk a little bit about what it is and where we focused our attention. And if you haven't had a chance to do the demo down in the sort of expo area and the booth area, please go do that. I know the lines can be a little bit long, but it's worth it. The demos that we have down there are fantastic. Both first party and third party are just amazing. So these three core engineering principles are really where we focused our attention from V1 to V2. Really around immersion. How do we create an experience that is far more immersive and more intuitive to you, so that you don't feel like you've got this weird headset on your head, and you're basically having to work the way it does versus the way you do. So that was a huge design principle, which I'll go into detail around. Ergonomics. How comfortable is this device? In V1, you could wear that thing in 45 minutes before you start to feel some neck fatigue. How do we improve the design so that you get a better sense of feel and comfort for it and be able to wear it much longer, in addition to some other improvements? And perhaps the thing that was the biggest Achilles heel for us with V1 was time to value. It used to be that you had to pay us or pay somebody or invest your own people into a lot of training to be able to build compelling apps for this type of device. That is no longer the case. So we have first-party applications, which I'll go into, and we have a wealth of third-party applications from our partners who've spent considerable time and energy making highly repeatable solutions that you can put to work immediately. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So firstly, around immersion, I think the number one observation or feedback that we gathered was the rather small field of view that we had in V1. Now the field of view, and this is literally a sort of a scale magnification of what you can experience, we have increased the volume on the field of view by, the overall volume of 2.4x. And you notice it didn't just go out horizontally, it went substantially vertically. So getting the display system to understand vertical, increasing the field of view vertically was actually quite technically complex. It turns out you're more likely to move your eyes up and down and move your head left to right. So unless you're going to sit down and watch Netflix, which is not, I would say, the most cost-effective reason to buy HoloLens, you're probably, for first-line work, going to be interested in having a broad field of view that is both vertically and horizontally improved. So that was a big improvement. But in order for that to happen, that meant that we had to completely replace the display engine. It's our own patented MEMS display. It's capable of up to 2K per monocle, and it has highly precise lasers on a display engine, this micro display system that is incredibly complex and is by far the most expensive and most difficult thing to do from an engineering perspective, to increase that field of view and provide that high fidelity experience that you would expect. So that was a huge investment of time and energy for us, and I think we got it right. It isn't cornerless, okay? It's not VR, it's not 110 degrees. It's probably more like about 55, 57 degrees, but that's vastly improved over what we had in V1, and it's only going to get better over time. But we've spent a lot of time and energy on this, and we certainly have the best display engine in the market. The other area that was, I think, is the most innovative part of HoloLens 2, beyond the obvious, got to improve the field of view, got to make it more comfortable, got to create better out-of-box experiences, is this notion of hand articulation. How many of you had worked with HoloLens 1 and got tired of the finger tap? Okay. It took me at least 2 hours to show my 87-year-old father, computer science professor, how to do a finger tap, and it ended in total frustration. When I put him in HoloLens 2 in a prototype and he had a chance to look at it, he started to cry. He couldn't believe it. The ability to be able to take a hologram and do as you do, stretch it, reshape it, grab it, share it with another person in the experience. For him to be able to hand a hologram to me in the experience was just mind-blowing for him. This is a truly innovative concept that we've enveloped, and it's unique to HoloLens 2 and unique to the spatial computing industry. 25 points of articulation in each hand that are mapped, and it calibrates to you individually as a user. So as soon as you get through the eye calibration, then it wants to look at your hands and basically create a set of virtual gloves on your hands. So short of having to wear haptic types of devices with just your raw hand, you're literally able to interact with holograms. So instead of a finger tap that is nothing more than a laser pointer, if you will, with a mouse tap, you literally walk up to that panel, that hologram, and you push the button. And when you go to push it, it illuminates with a different shape and texture, and it gives you an audio click. So everything's short of touch. So it gives you the virtual sense of, very real sense of touch. And then the next piece is certainly improving the depth sensor. This is the same depth sensor that's in the Azure Connect. So instead of being able to see only 1 to 2 meters, we can see fairly accurately out, and we can map rooms fairly accurately. I think it's up to 10 meters with only about a 10 centimeter range of error on out to about 20 meters. So that makes a big difference in being able to work inside of a room like this and have much better tracking, much better accuracy, and eliminate drift when you're in a room that's much bigger than a small room. So that was a huge addition to HoloLens 2, and we made it available, as, of course, inside of Azure Connect. The other point of innovation, focusing on really immersion, but also around comfort, is this eye tracking capability. So we've built Windows Hello right into the device now. So when you put it on, it looks at your eyes, and it tries to calibrate that interpupillary distance so you get perfectly accurate focal point when you're looking out 10 meters, 10, 20 meters, and you can see that hologram just as cleanly and clearly as you can close in. We've also continued to focus on, with the optics, with the display system, if you wear a pair of glasses, if you wear readers, if you wear bifocals like me, or if you don't wear glasses at all, give you that same fidelity, basically close in or out, glasses on or off, it doesn't matter. With the eye tracking too, with Windows Hello, as you probably already know, that's an encryption that happens on the device. That is information that does not go up to our cloud unless you send it there. So that's local encryption, which is incredibly important, obviously, from an individual identity management standpoint at the device level. From a comfort perspective, we spent an awful lot of time scanning a whole lot of human heads, more than 300 human heads of different ethnicities, genders from all over the world to make sure that we had a universal fit system that could work for just about everybody. With the exception of one very large man I met, there's a special forces guy in Australia, DOD, who was coined the human giant. That was the only exception I've ran into where this didn't fit on their head. And so with that, we simplified the fit system. We took off the halo that tended to break off and have to be replaced, and made it far more comfortable to don like a baseball cap with a simple screw. The other thing I didn't talk about is you'll notice we've taken the power and compute and basically moved it to the back. So we now have a perfect center of gravity straight down the center line of your cranium, so you can wear it and have the comfort that is 3 to 4 times longer than you could before. And so it feels and wears similar to like a motorcycle helmet. This is probably the best way to describe that. And then finally, from a comfort standpoint, really simple thing we did, pivot the visor out of the way. Both from a safety standpoint, but just, I'm talking to you and it's a more human experience to have that visor out of the way. One of our partners designed with us, very closely with us, Trimble, construction company, designed a system that fits perfectly into a hard hat. I'm not going to cover that in detail here, but I'll answer questions on it later. They've actually gone even further with that visor, and it flips up above what they call the XR10 device, which is a HoloLens 2 device. It's not anything special, other than the fact that it's basically retrofitted onto a construction helmet. But that visor and the hinge basically allows it to flip all the way up and out of the way. So clearly, from a safety standpoint, that was a requirement for them. But we continue to work on making sure this is a device that is fairly well ruggedized. It is not ATEX Zone 1 or Zone 0 compliant. So do not stand next to a blast zone or in a blast zone and expect no harm to come to you or the device, please. It's not certified for that. There are ruggedized 2D devices that do that, but that's a lot easier from a technical complexity standpoint than creating a spatial computing device that also allows for that, because that bicarbonate display is very accurately manufactured to allow that display system to work perfectly. And the minute you occlude that with a thin film or a visor of any sort, from a safety standpoint, you necessarily degrade the performance of that display system. You won't get the same level of accuracy from a depth sensor camera standpoint or the fidelity that you would otherwise experience in the hologram's relationship with the real world. But that said, it is Class 1 Div 2 UL certified, and so that should be something that we also did that for V1, but it's certainly something we felt was important with V2. That said, we're always working on what can we do next to bring this device into new environments. So if you have ideas about things that you want to try and, you have ideas and use cases of where you want to take this type of a device, let us know. We are certainly working with partners on everything from FDA compliance to blast zone type of compliance, and we're always thinking about that, and we're certainly thinking about those things for vNext, whatever that looks like. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about then the out-of-box value. So there are 3 primary products that we have today, and there's more in the pipe that you should be aware of. The first is remote assist, hands-free, phone a friend, see what I see. It's based on Teams, so it's sort of a modified, reduced Teams client that's optimized for HoloLens. And it is a spectacular way to very quickly be able to do remote expert types of functions and offer that 3D annotation, which is unique about remote assist. That's a unique feature that makes it much more powerful than what you can do with just your iPhone and Teams or FaceTime, for example. Guides, this is a self-guided instruction tool. These first 2 things are what we see people do every day in the device. So we felt compelled through a lot of customer requests to provide this type of capability out of the box. So when you buy HoloLens 2, you will get remote assist and you will get guides as a trial. And I think it's a 60-day, you can extend it to 90-day, and then we're gonna ask you to pay a subscription fee. But it's a fantastic, those 2 applications are fantastic. Guides we just released in October. They're both, all 3 of these are part of our Dynamics 365 product line. So they're SaaS applications out of the box. But as developers, as IT professionals, you need capability that allows you to integrate these types of applications perhaps into your own line of business applications. And through things like Power Platform, Power Apps, and Common Data Services, you can do that with these types of applications. And then finally, Product Visualize. This is just a simple mobile-to-mobile type of application for tablets or mobile phones. And again, allows you to kind of take that example I used with the car configurator, look at something and show how it's going to look very easily in sort of a 3D way, but on a 2D device. We will make it available for HoloLens at some point, but we think that the primary type of scenario is probably going to be a mobile type of scenario where you just need to be very fast in the way you do that product illustration. A great sales tool, frankly. May not be terribly relevant for this audience type, but it's a great product all the same. So remote assist, solve problems quickly, managers on the job site without having to be on site. This is the greatest business benefit that we see. It's based on Teams, as I said before, and we're demoing that in our expo. Hopefully you'll get a chance to participate in that. Guides, I just talked about, visualize as well. But understand, too, that we have a huge wealth of partners now that provide these types of solutions in a very industrialized way. So we have healthcare partners, retail partners, manufacturing partners, partners who really focus on this area of business all day long. And invariably, they have a lot more experience than we do working with their customer set. So we're providing something that's very basic and out of the box that you can extend and use. That might be the right path for you. But you may find in working with many of these partners that what they create is something far more robust, perhaps, that you may be interested in pursuing. This is a long way from where we were 5 years ago, 4 years ago, when we came out with HoloLens V1. So a lot of big names are investing in this space heavily. So some interesting, some case studies. Airbus started out as a very close customer with mixed reality. We helped them build their first application to do this quick harness cable installation. It's an application that they developed in Unity and in partnership with Unity and with us. And now they've packaged up this application, and they're ostensibly reselling it to the commercial airlines and to defense customers who buy their helicopters in order to basically, you buy the aircraft or you lease the aircraft, and you buy or lease a set of mechanics and people to train you on how to do the OEM grade maintenance on site, and then also paired with a bunch of HoloLenses so that you can do that remote experting, you can do that repair, you can do that self-guided instruction with their app that's specific to the capabilities and the function and the features and the products inside all of their aircraft. In this case, they're able to basically do cable harness installation 30% faster using HoloLens than they could before, and that translates into well over $50 to $100 million a year in annual savings for them in the time it takes to get the aircraft to market. ThyssenKrupp, they've actually been with us too from day one. They are not only a great customer, they're actually a vendor for Microsoft too. And they, through the use of their application that they've built with us, they're able to basically reduce the number of truck rolls, the number of technicians that are having to go out on site. So if I can get a on-site technician, say on the Microsoft campus or on your campus or your building, get your maintenance person who helps you out with these types of repairs, they can put the HoloLens on, they can basically call up the technician at ThyssenKrupp, and without having to have ThyssenKrupp on site, or reduce the number of times they come on site, basically they can perform the maintenance task there, right there. Huge business benefit for them. You can imagine this is a big multinational company with thousands of technicians. If you could reduce the delivery time by 4x, that's a huge business benefit, certainly. We've done some studies with Forrester and also with The Economist and some other, these are commissioned studies that in all transparency, but have come back and said, on average, we see the reduction of complex tasks by 50%, typically, just looking at applications like remote assist and guides. Okay. Let's talk a little bit. I'm going to change it to a little bit around. I talked about the first-party applications and third-party applications in some cases there. And now let's talk about some of the platform services that we're bringing to market with Azure. There's 3 core services that are coming to market, the first of which Azure Spatial Anchors. This is a service that allows you to do that 3D collaboration. I'm on a tablet, you're on a phone, the other person's on a HoloLens, and a shared experience with persistent holograms that are there that don't go away and stay there geospatially located and allow you to come back to those scenes on demand. That's a service that you can code into your applications. You can bolt into your applications, and it's in public preview today. So if you haven't tried using this, it works in V1 or V2. It works particularly well in V2. Azure HoloLens 2, which I know you don't have yet, but you will. Azure Remote Rendering. This is a private preview program. It will be in public preview presumably next spring. And it will basically allows you to experience non-decimated or high poly count types of holographic volumetric shapes without any reduction in fidelity. One of the most complicated things you do in augmented reality is try to take these high volumetric shapes and reduce them into something that fits into the memory limitations of the device, namely HoloLens 2. It's a technical problem, it's a technical illustration problem, and it's certainly a memory management problem. Now we have a service basically virtualizing and streaming GPUs, multiple cores in our cloud, that allow you to basically run that service with high fidelity models. So we're using this service with a number of companies who need to basically have no decimation of those assets when they look at them in augmented reality. They really have to see their full fidelity. I want to see exactly the shadow and shape and size of how that rivet goes into that aileron, almost as precisely as I would see it in the real world. I want to see exactly what that car looks like before I go into sort of any clay types of, or any other form of prototyping or fabrication. Whatever it is, if that's a requirement for you, we have a service that's coming to market on that. That's also a service that's available through a lot of our partners. The difference is, running it in our cloud, obviously, you have basically infinite compute capacity on, instead of going from a couple 100,000 polygons, say it's 60 frames per second, which is an average top end for what you'd see in HoloLens 1, we can get to 500, 600, 800 million polygons at 60 frames per second. So phenomenally better resolution and rendering quality. And then finally, Azure Digital Twins. Not a new service, something we've had with Azure and IoT for a couple years, but now being optimized specifically for HoloLens 2. We do expect that to go into some form of private preview here in the spring. So these are 3 core services coming to market with a huge pipeline of things that we want to bring to market with it, including AI services that are optimized for HoloLens, doing things like spatial reconstruction services with geospatial precision, a whole host of other types of services that are coming to market. Okay, I went through them all, so I'm just going to skip ahead. So this is kind of the way the stack looks. You've got sort of the SaaS apps on top with Dynamics 365 first-party capability. Then, of course, you have AI services that are already functional in V1 and work the same way in V2. No change there, just obviously expanding the way we're weaving those services then into the third layer around Azure Mixed Reality services that I just described, and then working across an entire portfolio of endpoints. So it's not all about HoloLens. That's a rather small surface area if I think about it from an addressable market standpoint, compared to what the number of VR devices out there, certainly compared to the number of mobile devices that are out there, both wearable, non-wearable, first-party, third-party. We don't care. Our platform play here with mixed reality is to try to get to all of the endpoints as capably as anybody possibly could. But wait, there's more. So very quickly, Azure Connect, and then I'll shut up and let entertain some questions here. This is basically a fixed device that you can mount that kind of overlooks a space. It has, very quickly on the feature set, it has the depth sensor camera that I talked about. Let's see if I have a laser pointer. Basically, the little camera there that's circled by number 1. You'll recognize that from HoloLens, the HoloLens device. It has basically a 360-degree microphone array with 7 different microphones. So it's hearing and it's listening. It has AI speech SDK available for it that you can download off of GitHub now. It has a 12-megapixel RGB camera. So it does a pretty highly precise, be able to see with a highly precise computer vision. And then it has a built-in accelerometer and gyroscope and it has a number of external sync pins, so I can daisy chain this thing to a number of different devices and look at a scene or look at a warehouse or look at a physical space from a number of different aspects. A lot of good use cases around this device, namely around manufacturing with doing things like smart measurements, depalleting, pallet optimization. This is really popular in retail and freight. In healthcare, obviously a tremendous therapeutic benefit, watching real-time rehab between clinicians and patients, being able to do performance evaluations. And then in the retail space, being able to do tracking, IoT tracking when, and then optimization, pallet optimization is there, or looking at stores and aisles and end caps and looking to see where traffic is happening inside the store and doing optimization there. And then with robotics, we're seeing this very commonly, looking at studying how those robots are moving, making sure that the robot's doing its job properly, improving quality, updating different kinds of CAD drawings on the fly, being able to take that analytics and put it right back into industrial design, object recognition, using that AI capability in the SDK, and be able to sort of pick and place assets, robots, and so on. So this is getting a lot of attention. It is fairly inexpensive. It retails for $399, and you can download all the SDKs for free out of GitHub. There's 6 of them, and you can play with this thing. It even comes with a screwdriver, so take it apart and play with it. We're just getting started in sort of this third-party computer vision spectrum with speech, with sound, and obviously with visual augmentation. So where to start? We actually have a bundle that's becoming available with the release of HoloLens 2 with Remote Assist. If you have not registered your interest, you can go out to Microsoft.com, whack HoloLens. We're taking your names, taking your numbers, and taking your order interest, and then we wish to follow up with you once the device becomes available. So you're going to want to sign up for that if you haven't already. Obviously, you can download these mixed reality apps now that I referred to, Remote Assistant Guides. You can run them on V1, on HoloLens V1 or V2. And then the Azure Connect DK, you can order those now if you're in the US or in China. They will become available in Europe and I think 40 different markets in H2. And then finally, of course, the Azure Mixed Reality Services that I talked about, which you can download the Spatial Anchor service today. Okay, I just went through a ton of content. Hopefully you've got a lot of questions with that, so I'm just gonna pause here and allow folks to ask questions, whatever comes to mind. If you'll step up to the mic, everybody can hear you. Don't be shy. Yes, sir. All right, so I've got one. I'm sorry. No, please. Okay, sorry, I was looking this way and saw him. I apologize. We'll get around. Go ahead.
Human-machine interfaces play a big role in manufacturing. So traditionally, they're all right? The tools that are used to create the graphics that are presented to the operators are all pointed electronic. It would be really cool to be able to take sort of a digital twin kind of concept, right? Take it, say, in a dealing furnace or like a car furnace or something like that, and have a 3D view of that, and then present your data spread throughout that spatially, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your vision for gotta be really that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
let 2D view,
Right.
Your manufacturing process in 3D view. So what tools do you envision? I mean, you can't expect people to be programming.
Totally.
Create those. So
Yes.
it's going to be the reliance on the HMI manufacturing like DG, Digital, Siemens, and Allen Bradley, or through somebody like PTC and Fuel.
Yes is the answer to all that. Yeah, yes, we're thinking about it. So very commonly, I want to be able to place digital assets as twins in a physical space, understand how they're going to operate, interact with one another, be able to do that with high precision. Yes, you can, Siemens, PTC, Bosch, a whole number of different companies already have solutions like this that are for use in HoloLens 2. And we have first-party capability too. We have a simple product that I didn't talk about called Layout that you can also download and play with that allows you to do that. And the idea is I need to be able to ingest any asset of any file type, I need to be able to decimate those assets quickly if I need to, and I need to be able to place them and dimensionalize those assets in a physical space very, very quickly, and even relate IoT data, and I don't want to code any of that. Again, one of the more common things that you see people try to do with augmented reality, and I think has a much higher value than, say, VR. Does that pretty much cover what you're asking?
It's in my view, it comes down to the same, the same kind of approach as the back in 3D.
Yeah.
And it's not, I mean, the data's already there.
Yeah.
That stuff's all easy. It's all aggregated in PLCs and sensors. It's just, we need the ability to easily create that 3D.
Yeah.
Oh, that's this temperature here, and, this flow over here, that kind of
Right.
process people can look at and say, yeah, I know exactly.
I think probably the most mature product set that I've seen is probably from PTC around this, because they focus all their energy on product lifecycle management. And it's all drag and drop. There's no Unity coding in there at all that you have to do. And allows you to go from a 2D catalog into a 3D experience into HoloLens and drag and drop those assets, store them in the cloud, store them on-prem, whatever you need to do, and be able to relate those assets inside the scene with persistence and come back to it. Organizations like PTC, Siemens, Bosch, they're all working with us to be able to use also services that we create, like Azure Spatial Anchors, to make it even easier. So they have a platform that works across multiple endpoints. We're trying to take the remedial stuff that is hard out of the hands of the user to make it easy to try to broaden the category. It's been too technically complex to date. If you don't have a background in 3D app dev, you're going to struggle. Not now. So between our partners and us, I think we've got most of those types of scenarios figured out. So happy to follow up with you on that. Sorry about to make you wait.
We've been using HoloLens 1 for about 3 years now on a day-to-day basis, and we've noticed that after some time you get some mechanical breakdowns of the visioning system, you get separation of colors around the edges. With the new vision system to be so much more complex, what can we expect with respect to mechanical durability?
Well, we'll see. No, I think you're going to find the reliability of it to be significantly better. What we're trying to do is reduce the amount of unreliability into the hardware and be able to tune it via software. So let me give you an example. One of the biggest challenges of tuning the display system to ensure we had a really high quality output for the user was to deal with color saturation. And in HoloLens 2, some of the early prototypes on the display system had a high degree of color saturation. You have red, green, blues kind of mixed together and creating a banding. And if you've ever worked with any of our prototypes, some customers and partners have had the ability to do that with us. That was a real problem, right? If my white needs to be white, my blue needs to be blue, my green, and I need to put it where I say it is and draw it in the lines, we have to be highly precise about that. We recognize the importance of that. We've figured out some ways through software tuning to be able to calibrate the display system to be far more accurate and rely less on doing hardware adjustments to the frequency of the lasers that are being used to display the holograms. That's my layman's understanding of how that works. But there's continuous, and the reason for that approach was we're going to continue to have to learn and improve. We have a new display system that is way better than the old one, but it isn't going to be perfect. This is a new category for everybody. And it's so capitally intensive to get this right. There's not a lot of players in the market that we can learn from around this. And sadly, as fast as we've seen 3D spatial computing appliances come into the market, there's more companies that are folding and not making it. So we're trying to reduce the cost, reduce the complexity, and reduce the reliability on the hardware, and be able to tune up and tune down and tune every way we need to on the software. So that's the short answer to that. Next question.
Yeah, all the different components you showed over there, will it work on the Windows mixed reality headset with obviously VR limitations rather than AR capability?
Sorry.
That new technology that's in the new HoloLens 2, is that going to trickle into the mixed reality headset? So 2 questions.
Yeah, absolutely. What I breezed over, which you're raising a really good point, is Windows mixed reality is kind of how we got started. We wanted to be able to provide a singular platform for VR, AR development. And you can move across using universal Windows applications or UWP, I guess. And that's still the case. That has not changed. And we've seen very easily the ability to port a VR optimized app with Windows Mixed Reality into HoloLens 2. And you can, from HoloLens 1 to HoloLens 2, from VR to HoloLens 2, no problem. That's actually not technically complex, is to port. Where it becomes more interesting for you as a developer is now you have a whole new set of ways to interact with those holograms. So what neither VR, no part of VR has, is to be able to see both hands and 25 points of articulation to be able to manipulate the assets in the field of view. So that's unique and new to HoloLens. So porting is one thing, optimizing for HoloLens 2 is quite another. We already have developed the toolkits. You can actually sample the toolkits today, even without HoloLens 2. You can run them on the HoloLens 2 emulator, which is available for free also in GitHub. And you can basically pull down the MRTK, or technical developer kits, and start playing with the hand articulation. There's pre-coded sets, there's pre-coded assets, there's pre-coded textures and shading and lighting that you can infuse that we've been working with both Unity and with Unreal. The other thing I didn't mention is Unreal is becoming just as important to us as Unity is from a DevOps standpoint. Unity has been highly invested with us over the years, but now Unreal is really going big into the commercial market. So we appreciate both of those developer operating platforms and want to make sure that we create tool sets with those guys and make it easy for you to drop into your scenarios and not have to do all that basic coding. So you're going to want to play with those MRTK toolkits. They're fantastic. You know, you can do things like take a sphere that we've coded, drop it on the floor with your hand, watch it fall to infinity, or try to basically teach the HoloLens depth sensor to recognize there's a floor and design characteristics inside that sphere. Is that sphere going to shatter? Is it going to bounce? So now you can sort of play with that and infusing hand articulation in that motion as well. So I think this is going to be your trick, and this is your opportunity to make much more immersive experiences with HoloLens 2 that you can't do in VR and you can't do with V1 or any other platform. Good question. Yes, sir.
What's the consumer roadmap?
Sorry?
What's the consumer roadmap?
Consumer roadmap. When they tell me, I will share it with you. But remember, I'm in sales, so they don't tell me these things. No, I mean, certainly we're thinking about this, right? We recognize $3,500, even though it's dramatically reduced from $5,000 from V1, is still high. It's still a premium device. And we are certainly optimizing for commercial. Sorry?
This will be affordable for consumers in 2 to 3 years.
That's where we're going. So we want to make it far more affordable, continue to bring the price down, and maybe create an augmented reality, either a first-party device or work with partners. That part I don't know, and I couldn't share if I did. You know, who are those ODMs or OEMs we could potentially work with to infuse a lot of our unique capability around depth sensor camera arrays, our light display system, and so on, into potentially third-party devices. But I don't have a roadmap on that for you to share today, but we're going there.
I can see some kind of integration with the Xbox platform.
And that's already happened. In fact, Xbox, the depth sensor camera came from Xbox Connect, which now is Azure Connect. The guy that created Xbox Connect is the technical fellow that designed HoloLens, Alex Kipman. So yes, a lot of relationships there that we've been able to pull forward, and innovation that we continue to try to grow around. Question over there. Yes, sir.
A couple of questions, but in general.
Oh, okay, we'll do. Yep, go ahead.
You guys produced a demo with Adobe, 3.5 years ago, showing the HoloLens helping with 3D design. Whatever happened to that? And will we, going forward in Windows Mixed Reality, if you know, will we be able to separate Steam out? Because Steam doesn't work well in a controlled corporate environment. So using like the Dell headset you showed creates some issues for us in our environment doing stuff with that.
I don't think I have a good answer for you on Steam, though I recognize its importance. So let's follow up on that one. And then around the first part of your question with Adobe, Adobe is a developing partner with us. They too are just getting access to some of the early prototypes of the device and the device that will go to market. And I'm certain that they are eager to try to revamp the work that they did with V1. Adobe, I think, is going to, because of the immersive improvements with HoloLens 2, I would expect that their portfolio of options or offerings are going to be much, much bigger than what they did with V1. Adobe feels to me like they're becoming quite adept to the notion of the third wave and bringing as many of their products to market using augmented reality or VR.
Okay.
So not a very satisfying technical answer for you, but we'll follow up on the Steam question.
I know we had never seen it actually come to market, so I was curious if you knew if there's...
Well, good point. So the question around, a lot of these partners, tons of partners, came up with these great, sexy solutions, demoed incredibly well, even if they weren't smoke and mirrors. They were actual real products. But they built them hoping that they'd find a customer. I don't want to pick on Adobe. There's plenty of partners that have come up with, it's a natural thing to do, right? Build it, and maybe somebody will come along and buy it. And that was tough in V1, right? We had all kinds of hardware deficiencies with V1, field of view, finger tap, technically complex to do the development, even for Adobe. So a lot of prototype solutions that look good on stage never found their way into a mainstream line of business environment. We're trying to shy away from that. The difference between our partner programs and investments that we make with engineering now versus then, we no longer are asking partners to go build applications in search of a home. We're asking that if you want our help, our direct engineering help, we want to work with you on a real application with a real customer. We don't need to be in the place of just ideating new experiences in search of a marketplace for them. We're past that point of maturity in this category. So whether it's Adobe or any other partner, multinational partner or small partner, it doesn't matter. We invariably want to exercise engineering support judiciously with customers who have real solutions to and problems to solve. Good question. Yes, ma'am.
There are several use cases when it's not possible to use Wi-Fi, for example, outdoors or maybe specific shop floor. Are you thinking about including how to say support of 4G or 5G in the future, or at least thinking about it?
Yeah, a great question, a very common question, being able to work offline and then being able to work in remote environments where 5G could be really, really helpful, or even maybe 4G. I don't know that we're going to optimize anything around 4G, but certainly we get the question on 5G all the time. On the first part of your question, there's already a wealth of good technical information that we have published and that our partners have published about how to work in an offline environment, say a forward operating base or the bottom of a ship or in a highly confined secure area for whatever reason that you need to whatever you can imagine. And we actually have a partner here, I don't know if they're in the audience, Cognitive Spark, who's probably licked this problem better than most in being able to have a highly functional offline on-premises environment. Our first-party services do rely on a connection to our public cloud at this point in time. There may be a change of that in our plan of record, but to be clear, if we need to work in an offline environment, the best option is probably to work with one of our partners right now. But with respect to 5G, boy, did we debate this. When we came up with HoloLens 2 and set the architectural design for it 3 years ago-ish, 2 to 3 years ago, we really needed to see evidence of how 5G was going to roll out with the telcos around the globe. And if we were to put a 5G radio in the appliance, it would change the heat profile, the performance profile, the battery life. I mean, every imaginable, conceivable envelope that we have to administer in coming out with a device that is passively cooled, doesn't burn up on your head, doesn't suck the life out of the battery. We just made a conscious decision that we're not ready to go there. But there are plenty of telcos. And it turns out, fast forward to today, working with the biggest telco providers in the world, all of them actually have told us, we're okay with the fact that you didn't put a 5G radio. We'd actually like to control that endpoint. We want to sell that radio. Or we want to work with an OEM that wants to sell that radio. So now you'll have to connect it through like a USB-C. There's a USB-C connection on it, or some other Bluetooth adaptation for it, things like that that you can do in near field. But you know, we're going to be thinking really hard about how do we get 5G built into the future, into the device, you know, by default. Good question.
The most widely used right now is all customers just tether it to a smartphone. Why would you use this way?
So Ahmed is saying the best, most widely used thing is just tether it through a smartphone, MiFi type of scenario, which you can do wirelessly or through Bluetooth or even through a USB-C. Good question. Yes, sir. To the mic.
I have 3 questions, but they're very quick. Is it still powered by Windows 10, so it can still be used like a general purpose computer for browsing and other purposes?
It's a Windows 10 cloud operating system at its core.
Okay, and what's the battery lifetime? And how long does it take
Great
to charge
question.
completely?
Your performance will vary. And look, we put a 2.4x growth on the field of view. And while we've optimized the battery and the battery type, I don't have the specs for you. If you were to use the same battery against a V1 device, you'd probably get much longer battery life. But because you have a bigger field of view with much higher lumens, you got to think about the energy that you're consuming out of that battery. I would not say to you that you're going to get more battery life. And it also depends on the scene and the scenario. If you're using the full field of view to do a high intensity, high frame rate rendering and animation, you're going to burn through that battery a lot faster. And if you're in that device consistently running those kinds of cycles through the compute and through the holographic processing unit, you're going to burn that battery down quick. The good news is, with the USB-C connection, you can hot charge the device, or you can quick charge the device in about 20 minutes to about 80% to the top of the battery. That's pretty good. Before you had to wait like an hour and a half or more from a dead stop on the device to charge it. You can also, you know, take lightweight 10,000 milliamp batteries and connect it and throw it in your pocket and stay hot the whole time. So there's a lot of ways to kind of work around that. You can hot swap the devices, but I can't tell you that the battery life is necessarily longer with all the performance improvements that we've made.
Thanks. And the last question. So HoloLens 1, we used Unity and Visual Studio and the mixed reality toolkit from GitHub. Do you still use those components?
All those components are still in play, and they've all been revamped.
So last time I checked, the new toolkit was under construction. Very little documentation was available already. So
go out there now. Go to
of
GitHub, and I guarantee you're going to find a brand new rev as of this week on MRTK.
Okay.
Unity is publishing a whole series of new APIs and code sets. They're helping us build that MRTK. So you're going to see all that through GitHub and TechNet and everything else. And then also a lot of additional documentation on MDM and authentication on Windows 10 as a first-class citizen using Intune.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Great questions. Any others? We can just keep going until they yank me off the stage. Yes, sir.
So what recommendations would you have for a company that's basically wading into the HoloLens pool, and what kind of prep work can we be doing prior to actually receiving the physical device? And what kind of IT resources, or say for us, for example, we're a construction company, how would we sort of tailor our research and our development so that we're ready once we actually receive the headset?
Yeah, really great question. Let me see. I'm going to try and put myself in your shoes. I'm a construction company. I'm new to 3D mixed reality, but I'm probably adept to 2D CAD and all of that, right? You're probably quite familiar with all the file formats and design tools, and you use them every day. Oh, great. Okay, so you have a lot of experience in VR as well. So the first thing I would do is go look and see what your peers are doing, and I'll point you to 2 specifically in the partner world. Number 1 is Trimble. So Trimble Construction. Trimble is deep into the VR and AR space with 2 primary innovations. One, of course, is they've got a version of HoloLens 2 called the XR10 that is coming to market. This is a HoloLens 2 device that's been retrofitted to a hard hat. So that, to me, is an immediate opportunity for you to follow up with Trimble. You got to trimble.com, whack HoloLens, or XR10, and you'll see all the specs about what they're doing in that device. Then on the content side, two ways you can go with them. One is take a look at what they're doing. They're replatforming all of their solutions like Trimble Connect and SketchUp, which is the company they bought out of Boulder. I think Trimble's based in Denver. And they're basically optimizing all that for HoloLens 2 with all of the hand articulation. So Trimble's a great option to research in addition to what you can read about on HoloLens.com with what we're doing with either Trimble or anybody else, including our emulators that we have available. So you can play with the emulator too. If you're handy with Unity and VR, you can do some practice porting from VR over to HL2 using our emulator. The other partner option that you might want to take a close look at, a company called Bentley. They bought a company called Synchro about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and the Bentley Synchro application is amazing. It's a 3D app, as you would expect, for doing smart infrastructure and construction of buildings and plants and all that kind of thing. But it's not just the X, Y, and Z and hand articulation and model, blow it up and IoT and fusion. That's not innovative, but it is, but it's not new. What I love about Synchro is it does time series dimensions too on those projects. So being able to infuse the project management function of construction directly into the scene, and if I'm designing a stadium, I can literally do a time series on an x-axis or a y-axis or a z-axis and see exactly how that construction project has changed with change orders, with project changes, scope changes, whatever it was, and then be able to look at those subsystems in that infrastructure and literally reach in and grab that subsystem, pull it out of the model while I'm in HoloLens, expand the model, and then be able to deconstruct those systems as well and run them through their own independent time series. And you can do it with multiple assets in the same scene with Synchro. It's a beautiful application. Not highly downloadable yet, but they're trying to create a sort of a freewheel demo, hassle-free demo that they're going to make available on our store. That's been my recommendation to them anyway. So there's 2 partners you can work with. You can also work with a wealth of our other partners that cover the space. You definitely want to get your pre-order in for HoloLens 2 if you haven't done that, at least for a couple devices to get started. And then if you decide, you know what, I really want Microsoft's skin in the game, we actually have a mixed reality studio. This is our own consulting organization that can sit down and work with you and co-develop your applications with you, including working with those partners. They work very closely with Trimble and Bentley and a whole bunch of others. So there's a couple of ways, hopefully, that helps you get started. Good. Other questions? Still got 5 minutes. I can't believe nobody asked me the question, when is HoloLens 2 going to be available?
When are they going to be available?
All right, there it is. Soon. Before the end of the calendar year. Very soon. But I will tell you that if you haven't registered your pre-order interest, or if you haven't spoken with somebody on my team, Ahmed or Andrew Tagnella, who's also in North America, or any of my team in Europe or Asia, you might be waiting a little while because we believe that demand will outstrip supply for many months after we GA. And I don't have a specific date I can share with you on GA, but I can assure you you're not going to be waiting too much longer, and certainly not before the end of the calendar year. But that doesn't really mean much to you if you can't get a hold of the device. So register your pre-order interest, work with one of our partners, with my team. There's lots that we can do from a POC standpoint and envisioning to prepare you for when the device actually arrives. So, other questions? I'm stoked at how well this is working out on HoloLens 2. Very different place than where we were with HoloLens 1. Go ahead.
Why did you name the device Azure Connect?
What is the name of the device?
Why did you name it Azure Connect 3?
Right. Good. So the question is, why do we name it Azure Connect versus Xbox Connect? Well, it turns out that the Connect technology, the depth sensor camera, the RGB cameras, the microphone array, all those things that allow us to do gesture-based input and study computer vision, if you will, is not really a consumer play. Xbox is a consumer brand. So more importantly, is not just what the hardware can do. Back to my initial point around this third wave and the seamless mesh of edge and cloud working together. The reality is the device actually doesn't do a whole lot without a bunch of cloud services attached to it. or AI services. All of that is a function of Azure. So to appeal to the commercial market from a brand perspective, as well as being relevant from a cloud capability perspective, it just made more sense where the real innovation in the long run is probably going to be as much about the software as it is about specific mechanical engineering that we're doing. So we learned from Xbox Connect that the high value use cases and the high consuming customers were actually commercial customers. They were healthcare providers, they were manufacturing organizations, they were retailers that were buying hundreds, if not thousands of these devices. It's so weird, you walk into a big box retailer and you see Xbox Connect in the back office areas, in the warehouses. Like, what are you doing with that? Oh, we're using it as a computer vision tool. Oh, really? And then they've got YouTube videos. So all you have to do is type in Connect on YouTube, and you'll see way many more commercial applications than you will of consumer applications. So we're appealing to those users. You know, we decommissioned sort of the Connect device as a standalone device until this came out, brought to you by tremendous customer demand in commercial enterprises who said, we really liked the Connect capability. What are you going to do for us? Well, we're not only going to reproduce a device for you that has a lot more capability with a much better depth sensor camera than the Xbox Connect ever had, but we're also going to allow you to take it apart and innovate it and go nuts with it. And that was another important learning out of Xbox Connect. We saw that thing strapped to robots running around on shop floors on YouTube. And even saw it strapped to humans trying to do weird things with it. So we want to try and see where this goes and continue to innovate. And so don't be surprised if the form factor continues to evolve, or multiple form factors, or watch us make that hardware technology and corresponding services available through ODMs. So all those scenarios are possible. We're still kind of experimenting based on your feedback. Does that help? Okay, I guess I'm going to call it. Feel free to hit Ahmed or I up if you want to come talk to us. And by all means, go have fun with HoloLens too, and we hopefully won't have to make you wait too long. Thank you very much.